Coming up next on Insights on PBS Hawaii, how have people worked their way out of homelessness? Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Malia Maddock. In recent weeks, Insights has explored the challenges of growing up homeless and raising children while homeless. Tonight, all of our guests have been homeless or close to it, but through education, hard work, and perseverance, they've carved out better lives for themselves and in some cases, their families too. As Hawaii looks for ways to address our ongoing homeless crisis, what can we learn from their journeys? Tonight, how have people worked their way out of homelessness? We want to hear from you during tonight's conversation. Call 973-1000 if you live on Oahu or 800-238-4847 if you're calling from a neighbor island. You can also watch Insights streamed live at pbshawaii.org. Just click on the title of tonight's show or find us on Twitter at PBS Hawaii. Now to our panel. Daniel Lin and his family ended up living in homeless shelters after a series of events drained their finances. They've left the shelters behind. Lin now owns his own business, and the family is even looking to buy their own home. Kimo Carvalho didn't have a stable home until the age of 5 when he was put into foster care and was later adopted by his grandparents. Today, he is the Director of Community Relations for the Institute of Human Services, a social services agency that works with Hawaii's homeless population. Robert Binney was recently considered chronically homeless, but found help through the Institute for Human Services. Now he's renting his own apartment and studying to be a math teacher, as well as advocating for the homeless in Hawaii. Francesca Weems spent her early years homeless in Honolulu's Chinatown and didn't attend school until she was 8 years old. Things turned around when she was put into foster care, and Ms. Weems is now a sportscaster at Hawaii News Now. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Francesca, your story is pretty amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Yeah, so we actually came over from Southern California, Los Angeles. That's where I was born. When I was about 1, my brother was 4. And my mother has a mental illness. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia. At the time, when we were young, she had not been diagnosed, but obviously we knew something was wrong. So that's ultimately what led us to being homeless. She wasn't able to work, which therefore, we were on welfare. And so we were in and out of shelters, in and out of apartments. It wasn't, like you said in the intro, until I was about 8 and a half, when I was placed in permanent foster care, that we finally, my brother and I, got a stable household and were taken out of the situation. But we frequented a lot of homeless shelters. Like I said, we slept outside of libraries and bathrooms. We slept outside of hotels, in lobbies, pretty much wherever we could, in the back of trucks. As long as there were coverings, we did what we could. And my mom did the best she could under the circumstances, but it was definitely the foster care system when they finally made the final placement on the Big Island that brought my brother out, put us in school, and it was ultimately through education that he and I were able to go on to have successful careers. But when I entered at 8 and a half, I couldn't read. So I was extremely far behind in school, barely knew my ABCs, and so we had to really start from scratch. A lot of heavy tutoring with the schools, and they actually put me back a year so that I could get the attention that I needed, special ed attention to my education. And I really just busted my butt every day. I didn't go out to recess. I sat with tutors, really honed in. My brother too. We spent summers just reading and getting the fundamentals, getting our math down, and then ultimately we caught up to our classmates and actually in some cases surpassed them. So brother went on to University of Hawaii. I went to UC Berkeley. We both graduated and we both have masters now. We're part of a very, very small group of foster kids that have gone on to do amazing things, especially where we have come from. So we're very thankful. We understand that the foundation starts with education, but we also understand that circumstances lead to homelessness, and in our case, it was our mother's mental illness.
We were speaking a little bit earlier. Your story is so amazing. Unfortunately, it's not typical of a story for many children in foster care.
Absolutely. Only 2 out of every 10 foster kids end up making it out of the system. So that's an 80% fail rate, which is very deplorable, and it's just sad statistics. They say that only about 5% or so go on to graduate from college. My brother and I have masters, so we're part of like 0.06%. Those numbers need to come up. And they actually say half of foster kids end up becoming homeless. So I often talk to people that say, foster care is not for me, or that's a separate issue. It's not, because it's all tied in. If you're not helping now, down the line, these kids are going to end up being the kids on the street, and it's only going to become a cycle.
Hema, you both have the personal experience of having been in foster care, as well as the professional experience of, I'm sure, seeing a lot of children transitioning in or out of that. Can you talk a little bit to that?
So from the personal side, my biological mother, she was very unstable. She dealt with a lot of trauma growing up, which ultimately led to her homelessness today. She is still homeless in Ala Moana Beach Park area. But I was fortunate. I was able to connect with my grandparents first on the Big Island. They provided the support necessary for me to actually get educated, access resources, particularly when I was going through my own trauma of going through that whole situation myself. Eventually I moved here to Oahu, where my grandparents here adopted me, and so my new mom, she also provided me the support and resources really to excel. And I think that was really important, just support these goals that I have, and not really provide limitations for me to grow up. Eventually I went to college, went to Tulane University in New Orleans. I was actually a doctor. I got into med school. I dropped out and eventually became a communications director, and that's what I've been doing for the last 9 years. So now that I am at IHS, it is definitely a new experience for me. A lot of the children that we see, at IHS we support families with children. Oftentimes families are coming to IHS because they're motivated to help their children, and that's really great to see. In fact, we're a place that reconnects a lot of children that are going through the CPS system, and that's really great to see as well. So we're enhancing their motivation to really make new choices, put the parents through parenting courses, substance abuse courses, finance courses, and providing the children with at least some sense of normalcy for their lives.
Would you say that there's sort of one thing or another that would be the defining factor in whether a family is going to be able to make it out of homelessness?
Not necessarily. Every solutions are very specific to the individual needs of every person and family out there. I think ultimately what we're trying to do is identify what is the trauma that has actually caused their situation. Oftentimes, when we look at studies, it's related to loss, grief, and trauma. The factors contributing to that can be loss of a job, injury, pain management, sometimes substance abuse problems, a divorce or separation. And these factors eventually it exacerbates into coping with trauma in different ways, whether it's through drugs, alcohol, sometimes self-prescribing medication. And so what we're trying to do is really peel off the layers of the onion to really dig deep into what is causing their trauma, and then trying to identify what specifically motivates them to make new choices and take action to get out of homelessness. Every situation is different.
What made the difference for you?
Well, first of all, homelessness was just a symptom for me, and I started to starve. It was raining really hard, and
here in Hawaii.
Yeah, churches weren't coming because it's raining too hard, and the streets were flooding, and it went on for days and days, and I got incredibly hungry. And
so when you say churches weren't coming, they weren't bringing the food that normally they would.
That's right. And so I ended up walking in the rain to IHS and getting a meal, and it was really good. But I didn't want to stay there. I walked back out in the rain, back out to Ala Moana Park and Waikiki, and slept under bushes with the tarp, until about 2 days later, and I was hungry again. And there still wasn't open for churches, so off I went back down the highway to IHS, and that time I ended up staying, and they looked at me, and I told them my story and what's going on with me, and they set up a plan for me. And first thing was to get me off drugs and alcohol, and smoking. Cigarettes was another big one for me, and they entered me into classes, went through anger management classes and life skills classes, and taught me how to do simple things like wash my laundry and take care of my physical body. And before long, I started doing good, and I was introduced to other resources, like Department of Vocational Rehabilitation for getting a job, which is my main focus, is to work. And DVR's been working with me, And they're a wonderful agency, and it's very, very amazing what they've done. And soon I hope to be having a part-time job while I'm still going to school. And so it's going to be a day that I can't wait to get. You know, it's very nice. And I got a lot of paying back to do, you know, to the people of Hawaii. And I look forward to that too. So.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So it sounds like in your story, getting involved with an organization was a big turning point. Would you say that for most of the people that perhaps you knew during this time you were homeless, that that's the deciding factor?
For some people, you know, but there's a lot of people that just will not ask for help. A real bad one right now is child support. Men who have their driver's license suspended from child support. They can't drive, so some of them come to Hawaii because it's only 30 miles long. And then they find out when they're here it's not the great thing that they thought it was, and they get stuck. You know, I don't have any children, and I wish I did, but on the streets I knew a lot of people here.
In that situation.
A lot of guys that had child support.
And so do you think there's a certain magic bullet, if you will, to solving that problem? I mean, if you were to try to tackle that issue in homelessness, what would be the outreach?
You know, they have struggled with that. Society has struggled with men who don't pay child support. And the driver's license being suspended, it puts the guys on the streets, you know, and it puts them in a homeless situation. They no longer can pay taxes. Some do, but not very many, you know, and a lot of times their marriage wasn't very good either. And so if there's any other way than to suspend their driver's license, let them keep their license and continue working.
And paying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel, what about you? What is your story?
I left Hawaii in 1985 and I moved to the mainland. Got into the swimming pool industry, so I've been doing that for quite a while. I was kind of getting burned out of it and wanted to move back to Hawaii. Being originally from here, I wanted my kids to grow up here like I did, and did all of that. And my goal was to get out of the swimming pool industry and do something different. So for 6 months, I became an independent sales contractor, and it was a tough time in the economy in 2010 and didn't make any money. And the money that we did have moving over ran out after 6 months. And so my wife did the investigating and got us into the Family Promise Program. And we got in there in May of 2011.
So it was a shelter for...
It was a shelter that housed families. We went to different congregations weekly, and we had a local central location in Kailua to where we can go during the day. And so as we got into this program, we were able to not end up on the street, which was a plus because I have 2 kids. And at the same time, I had a family member, my older sister, was able to help me get back into the pool industry because I realized, you know, I did good in it in San Diego, I'm gonna have to do good in it here. There's no way around it. It's the only way I'm gonna make money again. So I started doing my swimming pool service again in that time frame, and throughout that time, I was able to start my own business. So I was actually doing 2 businesses, swimming pools. And so as we were in the program, I was able to maintain what I needed to do as a professional. Go out, do my work, do my business, get everything done, and at the same time be in the program, kind of shuffling around. My daughter actually started kindergarten at that time, so I had a kid going to school, and we were in it for 6 months. And then after the 6 months, we were able to get out and get on our own. And now, as time has progressed, we are now able to get up to the level where we need to be.
Was it a shock to you during that time when you were in the shelter? Had you ever envisioned that you and your family would be in a shelter?
No, not at all. Especially in Kailua, coming from Kailua, did I ever think that, you know, I'd be homeless in this situation, running across people that I knew when I was a childhood, helping in the program. And so knowing that I had some of these relationships prior to that, it kind of made things easier for me. Childhood, school had friends and things like that.
Yeah, you had a network of support.
Yes, big
Right.
network,
But
yeah.
still needed some help.
Yes,
That's right.
yes.
Let's start with this question from Carol from Honolulu. For the panelists, what do they imagine their lives would be like if no one had helped? Francesca, can I start with you?
Just the thought of, you know, not getting out of the situation that we are in. I'm pretty sure, like I said, it would have been a cycle. I'm pretty sure that I would have gone on probably stayed on the streets may have been what the statistics showed or projected for somebody in my situation to be pregnant at 16, to probably be on drugs, and it probably would have been a cycle had we not come out of the situation that we were. And I'm so blessed that somebody did step in and finally, you know, realize that my mom had mental health issues. She got the help that she needed, and we got the help that we needed, being put in school, finding, you know, successful parents with our individual foster parents. In my case, Jacqueline Woods, who really showed me what it was like to be loved, who loved me unconditionally and let me be a normal child, treated me just like her own. So without people like that that have reached out to get my mom the help that she now is having, she's successful, she's able to, you know, function on her own in New York, and my brother and I are doing great. So I couldn't imagine where I'd be, but I'm sure it would be a cycle. I'd probably be back on the streets where I started.
When it actually was the point at which CPS separated you from your mom, you were 8 years old when that happened?
Yeah.
Was that pretty terrifying, or were you so frustrated with the situation you were in, even at 8, were you wanting that?
I didn't want to be separated from her. Nobody wants to be taken away from their mom. And it was actually in a church in Kona where 2 CPS cars rolled up, and we were with our mom outside of the church. I believe we had been getting food there. We were there to get supplies that day. And they grabbed me and my brother and said, "You're coming with us." And we start screaming, and we're like reaching for her, and it was just devastating. Like, we're crying, she's crying, they're pulling her back. "Ma'am, please step away from the cars." So they put us in the back seat of the CPS cars. We're both crying. We roll away, and I'm like looking out the back window, literally out of a movie, just bawling. My brother and I had been taken away at this point probably 20 times. So as sad as I was like, okay, well, in a couple weeks we'll go back to her. Those weeks turned into months, months turned into years, and then finally the court said, "You're not going back at all." And I'm not sure why on this island we kept going back every 2 weeks. Right, and yeah, because my mom has had the same issues, and they knew we were homeless, they knew we were struggling, we're at shelters, but they kept giving us back. For some reason, the Big Island, their CPS system really figured it out, and they're like, "No, we're not." It only took once. The moment we were taken away the first time, we weren't given back. So, but yeah, it was terrifying. Just the way it happened, they just kind of come out of, you know, nowhere with these cars and roll up like SWAT team, take me and my brother, and we were never given back. But yeah.
And then how long of a period of months or years was it until you had contact with her again?
So I would say probably 2 months after we were taken away, we did get to visit her with a supervised visitation. We had a CPS worker with us. And it was actually not until I was 18 that I was allowed to see her by myself. Every 2 weeks or so from that point on, we got to see her, but we had a worker with us the entire time. It wasn't until I was basically in high school that I got to see her by myself.
And when you were little, every 2 weeks to have to say goodbye.
Yeah, and like I said, my brother and I didn't think this was permanent, just because in Oahu we kept getting given back to her. So,
Hema, before I ask you about your personal experience, in your professional experience, when do you think, we've done previous shows in which we've, you know, discussed the fact that homelessness is not a reason for children to be removed from their family. What are the reasons?
Traditionally, it has to do with neglect, abuse, something that is necessary for intervention, and it does become necessary. But I think the end goal traditionally has been to reconnect families, make sure that the children is stabilized in the best setting that we can possibly provide.
And tonight we're talking about getting out of homelessness, so I suppose some of the interruptions of the family is with the intent of getting hopefully both the adult and the child on the right track.
Exactly.
All right. What about your personal experience? Let's go back to that question. I think it's a great question. What do you think your life would have been like if no one had helped?
You know, I remember the days living with my biological mother when I was young, and it was not stable. We were moving apartment to apartment. There were scenarios where she would throw my stuff over the balcony. She, you know, would have guys over. She was prostituting. It was just unsafe. It was not normal.
And you were in the home?
Yes, and you know, just a lot of trauma even thinking about that. But you know, I do have a half sister. Eventually, my biological mother had met another guy and had my sister, and I did see that my sister went through homelessness with my biological mother. And so that, you know, when I look at that, that is what my life would have been like. It would have still continued to be unstable, insecure, just no support. And I'm really glad that there was some intervention in my life so that I could get the support, the love, the safety, the community that I needed to grow and succeed.
And if you don't mind my asking, was your half-sister able to get out of homelessness?
She did. She actually ran away from my biological mother. She ran to my grandparents on the Big Island, and she was able to finish school. Actually, it's interesting. I hear your story, and it's very similar. And you know, I think that's very common for a lot of families here in Hawaii. A lot of grandparents or other aunts, uncles do become that support system, and it's just really good to know that that is available.
All right. Robert, what do you think your life would have been like? Or
I'd still be very hungry. And wet, cold, sleeping with spider bites all over me.
do you sometimes wonder if you would be alive?
Yeah, absolutely. Every day was wondering if I'd live through the night. You know, because there's wackos out there. You know, you just don't see them. Sometimes they sneak up at nighttime, and you hear about it on the news, people stabbing in the middle of the night. And so my whole life was just trying to avoid those kind of people. And so it's a constant worry. But it's so much nicer now not to have to worry about that,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Just that alone, so.
Daniel, your experience was slightly different in that you did continue to have a lot of family support, but had you not been able to get assistance, what sort of fears did you have at the time?
I had some friends, but you know, of course, you can't depend on them.
Yeah, there's a limit, right?
Right. And my wife was very good at, doing all the investigating to see what was out there. So we were checking all our avenues. And as I said, Family Promise came through for us. So as we were able to be in the program, we didn't have to really worry about much other than saving our money, doing what we needed to do to get ourselves on our feet, and then out of the program.
You now volunteer in
Yes.
the same program.
Yes.
What do you think is, do you see a commonality in the families that are able to succeed in the program?
Yes, the majority of them. You do have people that come in to have issues, that, are there because they were on the waiting list, but, they do have issues, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But as you go through the program, all of us are in the same boat, and we all kind of get together and kind of have a nice community, so we all kind of get along and
Support each other.
Support each other, yeah. And then they get out, and you're happy for the ones that get out, and then you see the new families come in. Because we were in it for quite a while. We were in it for 6 months. Where normally it's just a 3-month program for the people. So we kind of had a hard time. We were in there for a very long time,
Yeah.
And we made some friends along the way, and some of the volunteers that helped out, we actually continue to help them out nowadays at some of the congregations.
Yeah, full cycle. Bob from Kakaako, did any of the panelists ever get therapy, et cetera, to deal with the emotional scars of being homeless? Francesca?
Actually, yeah, I spent 11 years in therapy. So the moment I got put in foster care, I was, given a therapist, and then they kind of beefed it up with somebody who has an extensive background. So I, from 8.5 all the way to 19, constantly had a therapist, because it's a lot to deal with. So it's dealing with, getting taken away from your mother. It's dealing with, knowing that you were starving at one point because we would have to beg for food. We're going to different restaurants asking for bread and butter, and as kids, so you're dealing with that, dealing with sleeping outside, the horrors that you've seen as a child, and then being in the foster care system, kind of being bounced around from home to home. That's turmoil in itself. So yeah, I had to go, there was a lot of emotions. You go from thankful that you've been saved, but hurt, why me? You're asking why was my life, why was I chosen to go through this hardship? But in the end, I think that it's definitely made me who I am today. Strong perseverance, and it's given me hope that if I share my story, other people will be able to get out of similar situations and know that if you work hard enough, you can succeed.
Teenage years are already sort of an angry time, generally. Did you have a period in which you were just angry? Did you find yourself acting out, or can you?
Yeah, and my foster brother Jacqueline would attest to that. The teenage years are already rough, but because I was dealing with a lot of stuff, I tested people, I pushed their buttons, I was feisty, I did stuff, I pit parents against each other, foster parents against each other, I was manipulative, combative. I would throw tantrums on the floor all the way up until 14 and a half, 15. But like I said, my foster mother stuck through it. She kind of, while a lot of people would react to what I was doing, she'd washing dishes, carry on, friend. She's she's making food, oh, are you done? Yeah. You good? So and then eventually I was oh man, when she stopped reacting, because that's why I was doing it, I was okay.
It got boring.
Yeah, it got boring, and then I just gave up. But yeah, no, you have to have a parent that understands that, and it's not for everybody. You have to have somebody that understands kids. kids how the trauma affects them and knows how to handle it. Because the moment you react, we know we've won. So yeah.
Kimo, do you think emotional therapy is a big component for a lot of people being able to find their way out of homelessness?
Absolutely. It's, I think a lot of our clients coming off the streets, what they're looking for is someone or something to trust, once again, believe in, once again. They're looking for a community or safety. And I think that replacing these, bad coping mechanisms with positive ones is really an important part of transitioning out of homelessness. Every client that we do help get into housing and stabilize their lives, we do make sure that they have something to reconnect with. For Robert, he's a volunteer at Waikiki Aquarium. He's, giving back to the community. He's part of something that is bigger than himself and he really feels connected to. Mm-hmm. We want them to identify with that community, and so I do think that's very important.
Robert, you were very honest and upfront about having to overcome drinking, drugs, addiction issues to get where you have been. Was there ever a moment where you thought, I can't do this is too hard?
Oh, how many times is the question. In the beginning it was regular. But I just kept going on autopilot.
Did you ever slip? Did you have to come back?
Oh yeah, so there's several times, one step backwards and 2 steps forward, at least one more step forward, but I kept trying and kept going in the good direction. Lots of times I wanted to just say forget it, and I got a PhD of living on the streets, and you'd think I'd have a thick skin now, it'd be easy for me just to go back, but it's like even worse now. It's like, I've tasted what it's like to step into a clean shower without worry, or I can cook for myself now, and I can relate with people who are good people now, and
There's a lot of controversy about how to solve homelessness, and one of the things I've heard mentioned frequently is, okay, nonprofits should not be bringing food to parks or beaches, because if you're bringing the food, there's no motivation for coming and getting the meal at IHS where there can be services. It sounds like from your experience, hunger was a deciding factor in coming and getting services.
Just for me, but there's so many people out there with mental illness too. Mm-hmm. They will starve to death. Mm-hmm. They just won't go searching out help.
So in a way, the food is necessary sometimes to be brought and delivered.
To say not to bring the food would be hurting a lot of people.
You're nodding, Francesca.
Yeah, absolutely. My mother had a mental illness. It's not that she didn't want to get us out of the situation, she didn't know how. Mm-hmm. So I truly believe that a lot of probably homeless people probably have some form of mental health issues themselves. So I think it's important to be able to bring meals to people that maybe can't go themselves, depending on the situation. And I agree, it's not blanket. There's levels to why people are homeless. So I absolutely agree.
Any thoughts?
There's a lot of behaviors and symptoms related to folks that do experience trauma, especially when they're unsheltered and homeless. They have self-doubt. They don't trust other people. They don't want any help. And so what we're really looking for are those motivating indicators that really get them to take action. For Robert, it was a meal. For others, it's a shower. Sometimes it's healthcare services. But these indicators are important. It's baby steps to getting them to trust you and to develop a relationship, and that's what we're doing. What works is consistency as well. So our homeless outreach team, our case managers, they're being consistent with outreaching every single individual that they are responsible for as often as possible. Having that frequency, that motivation happen on a consistent basis, it really gets them to know that you're there for them, you're a support system, and there's options and choices that they can make and opportunities that they can pursue.
And do you find that that pattern can break through sort of the wall of mental illness and reach through, or are there some people who are unreachable?
Absolutely. No, I wouldn't say that anyone's unreachable. I think that, like I said, once you kind of peel off the layers of the onion, you're really trying to identify that trauma. And really, once we get there, we figure out what is it that they're motivated by to really get them into taking new choices and action and seeking new opportunities. For a lot of families, it really comes down to their children. For folks that are dealing with mental illness, sometimes it's sublingual messaging that just needs to be consistent, and they hear, okay, meals, got it, I'll be there.
All right. Tonight we're talking about how people have worked their way out of homelessness. Please call, email, or tweet your questions and comments. Call 973-1000 if you're calling from Oahu, and 800-238-4847 if you're calling from a neighbor island. From Tracy in Kailua, what is Family Promise Program and how can people volunteer to help with the program? We, I think, have a number that we can give people. While we put that up on the screen, could you maybe tell us a little bit, Daniel, about the Family Promise Program?
What Family Promise does is it has certain congregations all around to where the families can go and stay overnight at a week's time. And the volunteers come in and they bring meals for the families. And at a certain time, they will eat and hang out, so they're sheltered and out of the environment. And then the next day they go to the day house where there's a central location to where they can shower and keep up their hygiene and use the internet. And they have educational programs for the families, rental assistance programs that they can get involved in to get them back on their feet. And how they can help is if they belong to certain congregations and see if they're on the list of the rotations, then they can volunteer.
All right. From Jeffrey in Salt Lake, working the way out of homelessness. I was a federal firefighter, got into drugs and was homeless for 20 years. Now I'm okay and grateful. Thanks for the great show. A lot of inspired people out there from all of your stories. What would the panelists say was their aha moment that motivated them to do the hard work and get out of homelessness? And maybe I can also combine that with another question. Was there a moment when you thought, I can't do this, this is too hard, this is too challenging? What's the hardest and most inspiring moment that you remember?
There was a defining moment, and it was seeing one of the staff members clean the feet, a bloody feet of another homeless person. And that was a defining moment for me.
Why?
Well, because I always thought that people did nice things for other people only because they wanted something, and I didn't trust anybody. And that was probably the first moment that I trusted.
At IHS?
Yeah.
So the program worked. Kimo, your situation was different. You weren't ever homeless, but you were in foster care. Was there a moment you remember being particularly hard and in turn inspiring to move you forward?
The hardest moment was actually breaking away from my biological mother.
Mm-hmm.
I think as a child, you naturally just gravitate to a parent and you want to be in their lives regardless of the trauma or the negative situations that you're in. And I do remember feeling that separation anxiety. Funny thing is, I was biting my nails forever in my life, and I realized that was my way of coping with stress and anxiety. And I remember, that being a real big moment of my life. And I realized later I think it was after college where, I reflected on my life, and there was a day where I thought, I've been loved and I've been supported and I'm thankful. And I'm grateful to all those people that provided me that support system. And I just do remember that day and feeling, okay, I can do this moving forward independently. I made it.
You were sharing with us that you still have a family member who has not been able to get out of homelessness despite the fact that, you're a professional in helping. Who do you think are the people that this is just so hard? Is it mental health?
My biological mother is currently living in Alamana Beach Park. She is unfortunately a prostitute. She's involved in a lot of motivating sex trafficking victims to consider drugs to really sustain that operation. And it's unfair that I'm in this business and that I can't see someone like her get the help that a lot of other people get. But I know that one day there will be a motivating factor. I don't know what that is. I think that our homeless outreach team has really tried a lot of strategies, and I appreciate that. But that day that she does take action, we will definitely be there as a family to support her through the process.
Francesca, that defining moment or that hardest moment, what was that for you?
I think for the defining moment, it was the moment where I felt the safest, which was in my foster mother Jackie's house. It's the moment when she said, "This is my daughter and not my foster daughter." Because every home that I had been in before that, it was, oh, this is our new foster daughter, Francesca. Oh, you know, they put this label. She somehow knew that just being able to feel normal, because that's all we want to feel, is that we belong, that we don't want to be reminded of that we're different, that we're not your kid, that we came from hardship. We just want to be just like your kids, even if we know internally we didn't have the same upbringing. So I think that moment, I knew I could breathe, let go of some of the anger and kind of frustration I felt with my past, and realize I can do this. I can go on to be successful. I have a support system. I have a mom that loves me. I have a biological mom, but I also now have a new mom who has my back. And I'm very lucky, because a lot of foster kids don't have that. And I knew that beyond 18, I had a home always to come back to. And I think that safety net just let me be free to play sports, to enjoy hanging out with my friends, to be able to go and just go to school and just be a normal kid for the first time ever.
Yeah. You're now in the public eye.
Yes.
You're on television. You're in the news industry.
Yeah.
Is it somewhat surreal at certain moments when you see a news piece on homelessness and that was your life?
Yeah, I do, and obviously Hawaii News Now has taken a big role in shining a light on homelessness in Hawaii. So it's amazing to look at how far I've come and how far and how bright my future is in general, just knowing where I came from. Sometimes I do have to pinch myself, the fact that I did go to Berkeley, that I do work in TV, all the things that I've been able to overcome, and that's why I just hope that I'm an inspiration. I know that on TV we do get to reach an audience, and I hope that people see me even outside of what I do for the station and know that if I give them hope, I've done half my job.
Absolutely. Yeah. Is it ever, homelessness is very public in Hawaii. We see it everywhere. It's hard to drive anywhere and not see it. Does your stomach drop when you see that? Is it emotional for you?
Absolutely, and actually I just did a piece on a girl that actually ended up doing a race in Kakaako, and she reached out herself to go around and pass out flyers to homeless kids in Kakaako. And so the other day when I was doing kind of like a stand-up shot there, I saw kids running around, and it just broke my heart, because I remember being there. I remember when me and my brother were also out on the streets. We weren't in school, kind of just wandering aimlessly, and so it brought back a lot of memories on my part. And I feel for the kids, because as kids, there's nothing they can do, right? They can't get themselves out of that situation. So it definitely is surreal to see it every day. Yeah.
Robert, this is a question from a viewer. What is keeping you from slipping back into homelessness?
A strong support group. I've got a therapy I see twice a month, my DVR counselors. I have a real good relationship volunteering at the aquarium. And so I have a close personal relationship with a lot of people that don't drink, don't smoke, don't use, that give me wonderful support. And I'm inspired by them as well. So that keeps me going.
Kima, when I was reading articles you were interviewed for, one of the things you mentioned is sort of a daily part of your job is fielding phone calls from people who are interested in being homeless in Hawaii. And when I read that, I thought, with this sort of attractiveness of Hawaii, if that's what it is, then is there sort of ever an answer to the homelessness problem? Or is it simply a matter of, if we can get really, really good at connecting people with resources, we can actually kind of be a healing place for this issue?
Yeah, this has definitely placed a lot of pressure on service providers. And you are correct, there's a lot of people who are calling us. Sometimes they look to make a reservation at the shelter.
What do you tell them?
The realities of Hawaii. A lot of them are just not aware that we have a high cost of living. They think that, I can come to Hawaii on $5,000, it'll just take me a month, I'll definitely get a job. And a lot of them, they think that they have a plan when they get here, and their plans fall through. And then there's just some people who flat out, they just show up at the airport and they come directly to the shelter. So you definitely get your mix of different types of people. We do our part to really discourage people from making a choice to become homeless here in Hawaii. Rather, what we say is, definitely come to Hawaii and contribute to our economy, be part of our community, but make sure that you're planning this, the right way, and that you're making sure you have the resources to sustain yourself. For those people who are just stuck here, a lot of them, they tried. I give them the effort, but they're stuck, and so we are helping them with airline relocation, but reconnecting them with a safety net back home. It's not just shipping homelessness, throughout the country. So we're taking the responsible approach to reconnect families, reconnect friends in their safety net resources back home. For those people who are coming here, I don't know how much there are, but it feels more frequent, I guess, being at a shelter and seeing this as frequent as I do.
And in a way, I mean, is there ever going to be an answer if that is the case?
Right. I think as a safety net resource, we want to be there to help, and that's really what it comes down to. We don't want to, but we do want to discourage people from, just coming here, moving here, being homeless, and exacerbating our resources. We want to make sure that people are living responsibly, that they contribute to our economy, our society, our community, and we want to encourage those positive, attitudes and approaches. So it's not just that population, though. It's there's many different homeless subpopulations. There's homeless youth, there's homeless families, there's those who are chronically homeless, and a lot of them are falling into homelessness. So really what it comes down to is prevention, I think, is what you're trying to talk about.
Right.
We do a great job every year, and it's not just IHS. A lot of service providers are moving hundreds of people out of homelessness. But we really need to look at these systematic faucets that are causing homelessness, whether it's mental health, public safety, affordable housing, being attracted to Hawaii. These are the prevention aspects that's really going to slow down the homeless population.
Right. And just our cost of living. I mean, Daniel, you moved here with a business, with money, savings, with, knowing the islands, family support, and still it can just end up a few big bills you hadn't expected. Things can change.
Yeah, of course, when the money ran out.
Yeah.
And then having to make it again and going through that process.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you ever tempted to move away from Hawaii because of the cost of living here?
No,
as a
well,
solution?
San Diego was expensive already, and so we were used to that. And knowing Hawaii, I knew it was going to be a percentage more, but I had no idea that I wouldn't make any money for 6 months. That wasn't the goal. The goal was to do something else and make money doing that, but that didn't happen.
Right.
And so getting back into the pool industry and get back on my feet.
And you were able to do it.
Able to do it. Family Promise allows you to save your money while you're working. And that's one of the goals for them to do is put you up, have no expenses, save your money.
Get a nest egg.
So you can get that nest egg, yes.
Francesca, I saw you nodding your head
Yes.
when Kima was talking about sort of the moving to Hawaii.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my mom's case, because we were in such a, around Compton, like a very high crime area in California, for my mother, she sat back and thought, and the first thing that came to her mind was the fact that Hawaii is safe, and she thought about the weather. And I'm sure that's probably a factor you've probably heard from other people. There's this, I don't know if it's a misconception, but there is this, this idea that Hawaii is safe. And I have to say, in my brother and my case, if we would have stayed, I can only imagine our lives, what it would have been like if we would have stayed in California, and I do think it would have been a lot worse for my brother and I. So it's not that I condone that mentality, but in our case, I am glad she decided to come here and have us be homeless here versus us staying in Los Angeles. Absolutely.
And the crime. And Hawaii got a great resident in the process, so it worked out. Robert, you were telling me before the show that you had experienced homelessness in California.
That's right.
How would you compare the experience in California with the experience here?
The homeless shelters are a lot better there, much better. They have everything you need. You have even dental care. You have a clinic where you can get medical care.
So it's more elaborate.
Yeah, and they spend a lot more money on the homeless shelters there, and they're bigger, and they don't cost any money. Most of them are free.
And yet people still come here with the idea that
they have a false belief that Hawaii is going to be better, and
easier.
It is not. And if there's anybody out there listening that might think they're going to come here, it's going to be easy. It's much better there, trust me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are there any resources for veterans who are trying to work their way out of homelessness? And we have addressed this in other shows. Kimo, is that something that you could speak to?
Well, there's many. There's the VA. That's really ultimately our key partner in really addressing the veterans' homeless situation. At IHS, we do have a vet home. It's a 90-day transition program. It's a private residence located in Kalihi Valley area, and we do get a lot of our clients connected to HUD-VASH vouchers to get them into housing right away. There's also U.S. Vets. They do a great job actually at really connecting with our veterans, and we do refer a lot of our veterans there. And I think that's really the great aspect of being a coordinated system with other homeless service providers, is that we're really able to address homelessness for different types of homeless subpopulations. Although that is not our main focus, we do have at least some resources at IHS, but really US Vets, the VA, they really are key partners in that initiative.
Being able to reach that community.
Yep.
For Mike and Kahala, sounds like education is the great equalizer. And both Robert and Francesca, you've talked about what a difference it's making for you. How can we make sure kids who are homeless get access to education? Maybe I can turn that around a little bit and Francesca, ask you, when you started going to school at 8 and a half, which is more or less 4 years later than maybe a lot of the children in the classroom were, what was that like to sit in and walk into a classroom?
It was different, and I just remember being teased because kids would be like, yeah, we heard you can't spell cat. And I was like, And I try to skirt the issue, and they're like, spell it. And I'm like, K-A-T, and they're like, you know, so like that was hard. The social aspect too, because I hadn't really had friendships and bonds, like that was a new thing for me as well. But eventually I got it together, like I said, with hard work. But it was definitely hard in the beginning, just like I said, the social aspect, being so far behind, questioning yourself when they're reading and they're raising their hand and they're talking about coloring books and naps. And I'm like, what's, you know, naps in preschool and kindergarten? I didn't do that. So just simple things that I missed out on, that even conversations with my friends today, they're like, remember in kindergarten? I'm like, no, I don't actually. But like I said, like eventually I felt like I got on even par, but it did take us a second to get adjusted socially, to get on their level, and it was overwhelming because I felt like, could I ever get to the level of these kids reading along?
And you did.
Yeah, and I did.
Right. Robert, you're going back now. What's it like to becoming reintegrated with education?
Well, I get along well with the professors.
I'm sure.
It's kind of different, though. You know, there's like these young girls twiddling their hair and texting on their phones, and
not taking it as seriously as you are.
I'm just like zoned on the instructors, you know. But and they get up and walk away, and they pass the test. You know, it's amazing.
Is it exciting?
Sometimes, you know, it can be, for me, I take longer than most of the students. I'm always the last one there when the test is taking, and but I'm okay with it. You know, getting over the ego problem was one of my first hurdles. You know, but the instructors at KCC are really supportive. They have a good staff.
Is there any temptation for you at all to start back with the behavior that caused this problem for you? Is it ever hard not to drink, not to, I mean, you know, when you're alone and it's late at night, you know, and things aren't as easy? Is that a sort of a tiger you've got to walk every day?
Always. And I just have to keep my support system. I have to suit up, I have to show up, and don't let go of anything, you know, and I feel like I have a strong support system now, you know, and if I were to let go of that, now that would be a different story. You know, and then I would probably be back on the sidewalks in Chinatown, you know.
Sweeps are in the news a lot right now, and I'm curious what everyone's take with your unique experiences are about sweeps. Obviously, they're controversial. They are apparently getting some families into shelters. That seems to be an established fact. Can I go around the table? Daniel, can I start with you? What's your take on sweeps?
I think it's great for the family part of it. Seeing the kids on the street obviously is not a good thing. So once you get them off the street and into a shelter, that's the plus right there. As far as individuals, like Robert's case, you know, they have theirs yes or no's, you know, if they want to do it or not. But the kids aspect of it is where it's really at, you know.
If you
being
can
a
get
father, you know, and where I was, and luckily not being on the street, you know, but seeing it I see it on the news every day. It's on the news every day.
Yeah.
And seeing the kids riding their bikes and all of that, but knowing that they're out of that environment and in a shelter, a safe shelter hopefully, and getting off the street, that's huge.
Robert,
Very plus.
what's your take?
I agree. I think compassionate disruption is the lesser of evils. You know, if people are comfortable, they're not going to do anything. And so to create some uncomfortability would be just maybe the what it would take for them to get their kids into foster care if it's that important. Or
Kimo?
Compassionate disruption was never meant to be the solution to homelessness, and it definitely is a tool that is working. If my senior outreach specialist was here tonight, he would say that in Waikiki in particular with the sit-lie bills, that is the #1 motivating factor that is contributing to a lot of people taking action and making new choices to
The
get
sit-lie bills.
Correct. We also, for a lot of the sweeps, when we saw it going, taking place in Kapalama Canal, it was interesting because there were people who were medically fragile, and they otherwise would have never been found in their tents, and they were referred to us or to a hospital. It's cleaning up a lot of needles that is unsafe for children that's running around on the streets. And it is motivating a lot of people to take action and move into shelters and housing. So, it definitely is contributing to positive outcomes, but again, it's never meant to be the solution. It is definitely a tool though, and we believe that when matched with services, when you have this, the coupling of the two, it really does create impact and it really does help the situation.
Francesca.
And I'm kind of just going to agree with the panel, just in terms of, like I said, it goes back to the kids. If it's going to get them off of the streets and into a safe environment and a better situation, I'm all for it. I guess, and I don't know if I'm allowed to ask a question, one of the things that I did wonder, even as my brother and I were on the streets and kept being put back with our mother, is how they allow parents to keep their kids when they're homeless. And maybe that's a question or an answer that you have, because you said that that's not a determining factor for kids to be taken away. And I'm kind of surprised that despite maybe they didn't know my mom had a mental illness, but just for the sheer fact that you see her with 2 kids daily walking on the streets, not in school, how is that not a factor for kids, being taken away?
Hema, your thoughts?
Again, so I'm very new to all this. I'm only just less than 2 years into this, and so I'm only speaking based on my observations. When we're really assessing the Kapalama Canal encampment and serving a lot of those families in that encampment, there was only 1 family, I believe maybe 2 at most, where CPS was involved. And the other families, really what it came down to was working on their identifications, making sure their kids did go to school. They were following the rules. They were taking action. They were doing the necessary steps to get out of homelessness. And, I don't think that we wanted to discourage that process by just removing their kids from the situation. Again, CPS is only necessary when there's neglect, abuse, or some extreme situation where CPS does need to intervene. For IHS, we're not advocating for that at all. In fact, we really are trying to reunify families with their children and make sure that, they are developing as a family unit together.
But Francesca, maybe what I'm hearing from you is that perhaps the intervention for your family came years later than you think it would have been
Absolutely.
optimal. And would you like to see that there's an assessment of parents, and perhaps there is, we don't have someone representing, our state on the panel tonight, but that's really important to assess what the situation is.
Exactly. And I, like you're saying, in some cases, if they're taking the necessary steps, maybe they're able to get a job. But in my mother's case, 20 different homes here, you clearly saw that she wasn't able to get the job. It was the same thing. They had records, and we kept going back. So you knew that we were going to be back out on the street. So I guess in our case, I don't understand how we kept getting placed back with her, and how even at 4, maybe 3, we weren't taken away permanently from my mother when you saw that she was not able to function. 5 years later, we're still coming in and out of the system. These are, I feel like, obvious factors, and I feel like in that case, there should have been a caseworker to realize maybe in some families it's okay for kids if it's temporary, the parents are getting the help they need and they're moving on, and they're getting jobs and they're stable. But in our case, from 1 when we landed here all the way till 8, and I left, and then on the Big Island got taken away. We were homeless the entire time, and we had social workers and kept getting put back. And I just don't understand. And I'm sure there's other kids like my brother and I in the same situation that keep going back to their parents, and they're not making the necessary adjustment. And it's not okay to just keep them with their parents just for the sake of keeping them together if it's detrimental to the children.
Right, because your situation is very different than, say, we've had other homeless children on the show who have talked about what a cohesive family unit they had even when they were homeless. That's one situation for a child. What you were experiencing is something very different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I may add, I think there is also a difference in timing. Right now, I think our social service systems might be a little different from 10 years ago.
A lot has been learned.
Correct. And I know that when CPS intervened on my behalf, it actually wasn't as robust either at that time. In fact, it took my grandmother to call the head of CPS just to intervene on my behalf. And it was very odd because even though there was abuse going on, they still had to ask my parents, well, are you abusing your child, yes or no? Who would, in their right mind, say, yes, I'm abusing my child? It's just not like a natural thing to ask someone. So, you know, there might be a difference in times, and I do share that frustration as well.
Making sure that children are in a safe situation.
Absolutely.
And getting safe was what helped you get out.
Yeah,
of,
and so I can only imagine if we would have got the help maybe at 2 and my brother at 5.
I don't think you could have been much more successful.
But yeah, it's kind of like one of those things you wonder. But
yeah, well, we got comment after comment, this one from Tam in Honolulu, thanking each of you guys for sharing your stories tonight. So thank you very much. A lot was learned, and we appreciate your time, and congratulations to each of you for your stories. Thank you. Insights is on hiatus next week. When we return on October 22nd, Florida-based Nextera Energy has put in a $4.3 billion bid to purchase Hawaiian Electric Industries, the largest provider of electricity in the state. Now under review by the Public Utilities Commission, the proposal is facing steep opposition, including criticism from Hawaii's Governor David Ige. Some in Hawaii think it's time to consider other options, such as having the counties run the utilities or turning them into community-owned partnerships. On the next Insights, what is the future for Hawaii's largest electric utility? That's next time on Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Malia Maddock. A hui hou.